All right, and we are live. Oop, there we go. All right, now that I got everything working and everything's mapped up just right, welcome everybody to the NPCs Weekly News Roundup. My name is Travis, and of course, joining me on Discord is Kyle. Good evening, sir.
What's up?
All right, so guys, we have a lot of good news stories for you. Of course, we got the Assassin's Creed Valhalla announcement. We have the Last of Us 2 date changes, and of course, we got a feel-good story about an actor you didn't expect to be playing Animal Crossing. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that intro, and we are going to get started. All right, so Kyle, just to make sure, go ahead and talk a little bit. I want to make sure that your microphone actually did unmute here.
Yeah, I'm still here if you can hear me,
All right.
hopefully.
Yeah, like I said, the key bindings here, of course, that I put in on my number pad. I'm just worried I'm gonna hit the wrong thing and accidentally close out the stream before we need to. So I'd much rather, not do that right now. Okay, so we're here on our first story, and this one comes to us from Kotaku. Xbox Series X gameplay reveal set for May 7th. Microsoft will finally show gameplay from Xbox Series X games, including our first look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla in action on a new episode of Inside Xbox airing on May 7th. Well, Microsoft has already shown the console itself, as well as a shared deep dives into its specs. This will be the first opportunity to see how next gen games actually run on it. The company says the gameplay reveals will be from its global developer partners. Based on a tweet by Ubisoft Nordic, that will include the first gameplay trailer for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's not clear yet which other studios' games will make an appearance. So, we have seen the Xbox Series X both in teasers and in full-on teardowns. Like, I don't think there's not really much we don't know about this console inside and out, other than what the dashboard is going to look like and how it actually looks running games. Save for maybe some of the stuff from when it was announced at the Game Awards back in December. Do you happen to remember, Kyle?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. See, that was the one thing I was just wondering, is just if it's possible that it could be that case. The fact that, had we really seen anything else just yet? But I don't really think we have. I wouldn't be surprised if the demos that they showed off or any of the stuff they actually put up there at the Game Awards was probably either running on the Xbox One X or something on PC. Especially with the push of Microsoft to put more of the Xbox games on PC. So, not exactly sure, of course, if that was the case, but, here we are. The article goes on to say, so pumped up to see our partner showing us a first look at Xbox Series X gameplay next week. Xbox Marketing General Manager Aaron Greenberg wrote on Twitter. Also know the Xbox Game Studio teams are hard at work on some big summer plans. Based on his remarks, it seems like the event will focus on third-party games rather than in-house ones like Halo Infinite. And I will be honest, that does actually bug the crap out of me, because I would actually like to see what Halo Infinite is going to look like, especially gameplay. I don't know about you, Kyle, but you guys know that I really love my Halo games, and I would really love to see exactly what becomes
Well,
of
I
this.
think I mentioned that like either last week or a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
when we were talking about the news, that I think that's kind of always been their, you know, flagship. I'd like to see what Halo is running on it, and I think a lot of the public is wanting to see what Halo is going to look like running on the new system.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't have anything other than, let's see, we had that kind of like teaser trailer, and then we had the one at, it was E3 this last year, wasn't it? That we had a trailer.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive. Yeah, it was the one where it's Master Chief floating through space. He still doesn't have Cortana and the little chip, and the technician is picking him up and, like, getting him all back together. But he's in his original armor. He's not in the new stuff from Halo 4 or Halo 5. So
Well, and isn't there one where he's like running up a cliff and he's like shooting it like it a bunch of people made fun of it because he's like shooting at nothing and he kind of gets at the top of the cliff and it's literally a cliff off of, you know, to an abyss. but there was like it was just like a teaser trailer or something.
Um, I'm actually looking here right now, and the only thing that comes up is it looks like it might have been something with maybe Halo 5, but Halo 5 actually, the only thing I can find there was when from the opening cinematic is when they jumped out of the back of the Pelican and were doing kind of like the Halo jump.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's about as far as that got, but I don't know actually. I'm not seeing anything at least immediately here just like searching around.
Mm.
So I don't know, but I'm not gonna fight you on it. You're probably right, and I'm just not typing it in the right way. Other than I did put Master Chief running up cliff and didn't get it, so you know
Yeah, I don't know.
that's all right.
Maybe someone else will fact check it.
Hey, maybe someone will. That'd be great. If you guys know for a fact, drop that link in the comments, and we'll bring it up and check that out before the stream is over. But let's go ahead and move on to our next story, and this was definitely the big one for the week. Assassin's Creed Valhalla was officially announced. So, thanks to PC Gamer, of course, they have a nice big collection article here of everything that has been shown off thus far. So, the game itself, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is set in the Viking and Norse mythology level period in time, which this one here actually says it's set in 9th century England. So, all we know about it right now is that this is coming out at the end of this year. It looks like it might be a launch title for the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. It has been confirmed that it's going to be, of course, not just on those consoles, but it looks like it's also going to be supported on the current generation consoles, but will probably play better on the PS4 Pro and the Series X. And with that part, though, really, I mean, what do you think, Kyle? We've been getting weird rumors and leaks and information out on this game for some time now. I mean, there was the poster in, oh, what game was it? Division 2 that had a Viking that looked like it was holding the Apple of Eden or Apple of Eve. I can't remember.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we've had that. There's been talk, of course, that the game was supposed to be called like Ragnarok. There was something called like Assassin's Creed Kingdoms, but we never saw anything, further about that. And then, sure enough, here comes this tweet at the beginning of the week. I think it was Monday actually, where, excuse me, and it's like tune in for a new thing on Assassin's Creed. Then they revealed the logo, and then we got the actual trailer here. So,
Well, and I think it was cool because what the trailer was dropped yesterday, right?
mhm.
And the what was it, day before yesterday? If you tuned in on YouTube, on their YouTube, on I think it was Ubisoft or Assassin's Creed's YouTube, it was basically a live uh, feed of someone doing an art project on like Photoshop, and it was basically an Assassin's Creed Valhalla poster. It really really cool, but it's a really really long live stream.
Yeah, I'm sad I actually didn't get to see that one. So I know you can't see it here, of course, Kyle. But for the people that are tuning in, I've actually got the trailer playing right now from YouTube, so you can actually kind of see here. Of course, with trailers like this, it's always pre-rendered. A good example, of course, is the way that Blizzard does their trailers for like Overwatch and for World of Warcraft and of course Diablo. They're definitely way more cinematic and way more detailed than what it's going to look like in the game, but one can hope that this is actually what it's going to look like, but I don't think we're going to be there just yet. You know, so much emphasis on ray tracing, of course, being a key part of it, with the next generation consoles that I don't think we're going to get that far. So, yeah, it's interesting to actually see that we finally got to this point here that we're going to be getting a a new Assassin's Creed game. Oh, I don't know, at the end of this year. I mean, because
Maybe we'll
well,
see.
yeah, yeah, with the coronavirus stuff going on, with the coronavirus stuff going on, I don't know exactly how long it's going to be until this, and like how much is it actually going to impact? Let me better say this. I'll bring my camera back up and we'll go to the other part here. So pause this. Coronavirus has impacted so much, Kyle. And we know, of course, it took so long for us to actually hear about like the dates for Last of Us 2. We're going to get into that here shortly. Like, what do you think? Do you think that this game might be far enough along that they can actually push it at the end of the year? Or do you think maybe this one's also going to get pushed out farther and we might not see it till early next year, mid next year?
At the very least, if it doesn't make it out, with console launches at like the end of the year, we'll see it, first thing like next year. It'll be like the one of the very first launch titles of next year.
Yeah, and see, I wonder if they need maybe a little bit more of that buffer, specifically because I mean, like they were talking about it specifically with Last of Us 2 that they were going to need the extra time and that it was delayed indefinitely to do it. And again, it's kind of like one of the stories it is one of the stories we're going to be talking about. But now that they've actually given an official release date, it doesn't seem like they really gave much time to iron out whatever it was that they needed to. And I don't know. I'm a little concerned about Last of Us 2. If they were trying to really polish it up and make sure it was okay, that are we going to run into other issues? Does Assassin's Creed need a little bit more time like they did, or what?
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know. Well, when was the last Assassin's Creed release? Because
It
I,
was
I, I
Odyssey.
just yeah, and I only just barely picked up Odyssey, and I know I picked it up late, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when the game first released. I'll have to double check that one.
Yeah, well, like I can't remember here, and you know what? I'll open it up here on my other screen. Let's see. It's Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Feels like it was just recently too. 2018.
Yeah, October.
Wow.
Wow. So
Does that sound right? I mean, does that like for the release schedule that we've had for Assassin's Creed games, does 2 years sound right? Because it seemed like they were getting pumped out so quick. I mean, was
they
this
were, but
slower?
you think about it, they did kind of back off after uh the whole debacle with what the one oh shit, it was like the first one with the Xbox One.
Hmm. Let's see. Trying to think. Let's see, because Assassin's Creed 1, let's see, 2 and 3, and all their little expansions were basically the same thing with Ezio. Assassin's Creed, was it 4? Was there actually a fourth, or was it just Black Flag? I don't know. All the different
No, it was Unity.
Unity.
Um, I want to say after Unity, they did have a lot of like, or no, not was it Unity? Yeah, it would have been Unity, I think.
Well, because if you remember too, like at that point in time, what was it after
That was the
Assassin's
one that was
Creed?
like super broken.
Yeah, that was the one where all the facial animations were really screwed up. But I'm also thinking too about the
And then
PSP games that
oh,
actually came out too. So,
yeah, but
mm-hmm.
they re-released a lot of those, and there wasn't a lot to that.
Mm.
And a lot of the releases that they had in between were re-releases as well of previous titles.
Mm-hmm.
Now they did have issues with Assassin's Creed 2 as well, but I don't know. Maybe the 2 years is long enough, and maybe we won't have a you know shit show of a launch essentially that they had with Unity.
That would be one big hope I think with all of this is that, and that's why I really brought it up as a discussion point for us, is the fact that we saw it with Last of Us 2, and that one's been waited for so long. The rumors that were going around about this game and how long it's taken for us to actually hear something truly about it and see anything about it. Um, you know, and with what's going on right now is I don't know if they're going to have enough time. I mean, depending on exactly where it's at in the development stage, especially because we're going to see possibly gameplay with the Xbox Series X stuff, or excuse me, we are with what we just saw in the previous article. Are they far enough along now or are we going to end up actually seeing, just like you said, are we going to see a repeat of Unity? And I hate, especially for what looks like is going to be a launch title for these consoles and for PC, to be that broken.
Well, and coming off the back end of Odyssey, which I think was an excellent Assassin's Creed title, it would be horrible for it to, show up and be like Unity, especially
Yeah.
coming, out of this, you know, Vikings and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the potential of going up against, gods from Valhalla and,
Well, so they had
especially since you did stuff like that in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Well, so I was reading a little bit more on it before we got into the news, and what I ended up finding out is that they were really concerned about this kind of leaning more towards like how the new God of War was, where it definitely had its roots more, in the mythology, but it definitely kind of turned the dial up a bit, especially with who you were fighting and what the whole objective of the game was. Whereas in this one, they really tried to stick more towards the historical side of it, just like they have with all the other Assassin's Creed games. They've really tried to make sure to maintain that level of history while still introducing some of the mythology parts. Like in the trailer, they actually, like the main character, he made mention that he had seen Odin. Odin's with us. Let's push ahead, and that was kind of a driving factor, whether he was delusional or if something else was going on. So it's going to be kind of cool, I think, on the historical side of it. But yeah, it's fingers crossed that this doesn't go the way that Unity did. And I hope they're giving themselves enough time to complete it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and jump in here into our next story. And this one comes to us from VG247. This one was actually a little bit annoying, of course. A Nintendo Direct presentation will not take place in June. So Nintendo may not air a Nintendo Direct in June, according to a report. With the cancellation of E3 2020, it was expected Nintendo would host a Nintendo Direct in June to showcase its upcoming slate. Slate specifically, being games. Nintendo said when the ESA canceled E3 2020, it would continue to be flexible and would redirect its efforts to other ways to keep folks up to date on announcements and its upcoming slate for 2020. A presentation may not happen, though, according to a VentureBeat report. So the problem, of course, it all goes back to coronavirus. The fact of the matter is that they can't get everybody together to do it. I'm sure that for the sake of quality that Nintendo has, setting up, having all of the different people at Nintendo, who would contribute to this, setting up a camera and actually doing the presentation, of course, for their part of the house, there's probably some logistical issues with it. But it was kind of, hoping, of course, with the fact, and even the story goes on to it, that it's the 35th anniversary of Mario, and we should have seen a game this year, or at least, the announcement of this supposed Super Mario remastered game pack. But I don't know. Do you think that they're going to push it off more towards later in the summer? Are they going to surprise us and have it figured out and maybe come back and do it in June like they were originally going to? What do you think is going to happen, Kyle?
I don't know. With the way they did their one of their what was it, their mini Nintendo Direct, that they just kind of announced it out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
People thought they were gonna do a Nintendo Direct, and Nintendo was like, "No, no, no, we're not gonna do it." And then all of a sudden they said, "Oh, we're gonna do a mini Direct," and it was a mini Direct that lasted like what 3 hours. So maybe they're just gonna kind of stealth do a mini direct or stealth announce a mini direct to say, hey, tomorrow, sometime in June, or I would imagine if we're pushing it, that maybe it'll be late June.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, that they one day just post on their website, hey, tomorrow, such and such AM or such and such PM, Nintendo Direct, and it'll be like a 2.5 hour event, and we're gonna get all these drops, and it'll probably be like 2, 3 major titles,
See, and I like
and I
that
think
idea.
Mario will be one of them.
And I really like that idea. I like the idea of like a shadow Nintendo Direct, I think, because Nintendo hasn't been hasn't or has been the victim. Excuse me. I was trying to think of the words to use there and I couldn't. It's been that kind of day Nintendo has been the victim of leaks, of course, especially with this guy who's really good at actually getting the information out for upcoming Super Smash Brothers characters.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if they're kind of doing the shadow side of things there, is that, they're keeping things closer to the chest and they're not going to let things out. They're not going to really push, for their people to get set up, or at least they are, but they're not going to be doing it in a way that, the entire Nintendo company and organization is aware of it, to keep hopefully some of those leaks down. So to be honest with you, I think a shadow or sneak Nintendo Direct would be in their favor. And if they did it, I think they would probably be better off, because, even if you don't prepare for it to come up, what's it going to hurt?
Right. And I foresee them having at least one of the titles that they announced drop the following day on the eShop.
Yeah, maybe what they'll do is, because of it being the 35th anniversary, like, I never actually thought about this till now. What if it's because of it being the 35th anniversary of Mario? What if they just did a staggered drop of these supposed games that are going to be actually a part of that pack? Because they're talking, it's even here in the article, it says Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. And then, of course, there's talk about new Paper Mario and a deluxe version of Super Mario 3D World. Imagine if they decide to go ahead and do a shadow one. It's like, guess what? Super Mario 64 is out tomorrow. That, I think, would be the smartest thing they could do business-wise. And then they just, every month, they release a new Mario game. Or a remastered Mario game in relation to the anniversary.
I'll tell you what would be even cooler, and this is my just wishful thinking,
Mm-hmm.
is they make an announcement. They do a mini Nintendo Direct. In their Direct, they announce they're going to launch the Nintendo app here in the United States.
Okay.
Like we talked about last week, that they've already launched in Japan.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Aside from that, maybe they launch a virtual console for the Nintendo 64 and for the GameCube, perhaps even the Wii, and we get drops that way.
I mean, that's a hell of
Even if
a
they
that's a hell of a wish
even
list
if
for
they announce
Nintendo.
even if they announce there's like some sort of secondary tier for their online
Right.
membership. Their online membership is by far the cheapest of any of them. I think it's what, $24.99 for a year.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
I had to pay $5 more and maybe got voice and the ability to use a virtual console that gave me access to play Mario Galaxy, or even just a virtual console that had Mario games exclusively,
Mm-hmm.
that had Mario Galaxy and you know Mario Sunshine on it, that would be awesome.
Yeah, you know what, that may not actually be a bad idea here, especially because, like you said, the fact that they do stagger it, that when they drop Super Mario 64, okay, here's the N64 virtual console. They drop Sunshine, okay, here's the GameCube one, and then Galaxy. Yeah, I think you're on the right track with that one, but for Nintendo, that seems to be that's a pretty big dump for them. I mean,
Yeah,
that just that's
I mean, that, like I said,
that's
that's
a
a lot of
lot.
wishful thinking on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
That would be more of a staggered drop over the next like 5 years. We'd have to see probably two more Nintendo Switch consoles drop. You've got to see a Switch Pro and a Switch Lite Pro or something drop before we see all of that content drop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so much for Nintendo, but I'm rooting for it. I'm right there with you, and I think I would actually like to see the exact same thing. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best on that one, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on here to the next.
Tune in, guys, from Nintendo.
Yeah, Nintendo, give us a call. We got some ideas for you, okay? And they will make you a lot of money, okay? Even though we know you make a lot of money, but we have an idea for some more. So just drop your phone number there in chat, or send us a direct message, and we'll talk, okay? But let's move on here to the next story. And Kyle, I think you added this one here to the list from Games Radar. We have the PlayStation 5 reveal event is reportedly planned for June 4th. Nintendo Direct leaker claims a PS5 reveal event is happening in 5 weeks' time. Kyle, fill us in on this one, dude.
Yeah, I think it's funny that the tie-in was that it's the Nintendo leaker that did this. But the next PS5 event could be taking place on June 4th, according to the newly posted information from games journalist Jeffrey Grubb. When recently asked about the PS5 reveal event on Restera,
Recitera.
Grubb, whatever, I don't know, who accurately leaked the data of last month's Nintendo Direct, stated that something is currently planned for June 4th, but stopped short of revealing anything more. Grubb's comments followed rumors of an incoming Xbox Series X event, which Xbox head Phil Spencer has already promised will reveal its slate of upcoming Xbox Series X games for Microsoft's next gen console. Presumably, Sony is planning to do the same thing for the PS5 over the summer, uh, though the floated date or of June 4th suggests that we may be waiting as long as we expected for those anticipated games. So, I mean, I don't know. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a reliable source? Maybe. Um, I It'd be really cool if it comes June 4th. If it's one Laker though, I'd like to see at least a little bit of backup information on this.
Yeah, because I don't like just this. That's why it's like, I know you didn't see it, Kyle, but I really kind of shrugged as soon as you said it. Is that it's like about a PS5 reveal event on Recitera. Grubb stated that something is currently planned for June 4th, but it's like, it's okay. That's about it. Whereas if this person here is actually really good at providing information on leaks and that too, or reports or rumors or anything, then of course they should be listened to if they have the reputation for it. But I don't know.
Well, and Nintendo's already proven that they're willing to change things and all of a sudden drop uh, information just willy nilly. But even if it's just the smallest thing, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it
Well, you think
just it'll change instantly.
Well, you
You
think
know,
we've already gotten the specs, of course, of the PlayStation 5 in that god awful presentation, where the guy was explaining this is how RAM works, this is how the SSD works, this is how it all communicates together. And it was like an
yeah.
engineering technical conference there, which it was like, okay, I didn't expect it to be that, but yay, thanks for that.
You're talking about the one with the shadow people, right?
Yes, yeah, the ones where they actually
CGI
like
shadow people.
Yes, that exact one. So, there wasn't anything there. We did get to see the controller now, too. So we have potentially some design cues for what the PlayStation 5 might kind of come across looking like with the two tone. And then, we've seen some games that are so far slated to be on the PlayStation 5 too, but of course they're not console exclusives. They are shared environment, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla so far has actually been said, that's going to be on the PS5, but that's it. I mean, what else can you really take from that right now? So here we are
But we've
again
also
with a
heard
rumor.
about the possibility of hardware limits. We may not be seeing enough hardware for even a good chunk of the people that are wanting to buy this on release to be out. So
Yeah, so that's another part of it is, are we going to have limited stock of this console then on day one? You know?
I don't know. I think Sony putting it off for so long has put them in a bind. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
they of course they couldn't have foreseen this virus putting a wrench in the cogs, so to speak. But I think it's really put them in a bind at this point, and that's one of the reasons they've had to announce things like, oh, we're only going to have so many consoles on release. Um, yeah, I mean, you haven't even released what it's going to look like. Do they even have final specs? Maybe. I'm beginning to wonder at this point.
I think final specs are already decided on because I think we're too far into the announcement of the PlayStation 5, of course, knowing that it's coming out. We've got the Series X coming out. I think we're too far in. I think the specs that we've seen so far are
Well,
100%.
I mean, not, I, yeah, the specs, but I mean, even what it looks like. Do they have this thing in a case? We just got new patents that were shown that show a big heat sink, and that's great and all, but I think yeah they may know what's going on, what they're doing with the
I,
design, but maybe
I,
they've only just decided.
what I
I could
find,
be wrong, but
what
that's the way they're acting.
what I specifically find silly about it most of all, like you said, the heatsink part. It's like, unless this thing has some sort of like all-in-one liquid cooling system or something to keep things going, what's that matter? If they're showing off these granular details that most people don't care about, that's fine. And in our chat, I'll bring up this one now because this one's definitely a good point. This one's from Sean. He says, you also have to remember there are going to be a lot of people, given the circumstances, they won't be able to afford the console. That is absolutely correct. You are talking about the potential of the Xbox Series X costing anywhere from $500 to $600. We've got to assume that the PlayStation 5, since they're not going full spec for spec, but they're
Yeah,
relatively
I've
close.
heard anything from 500 to
Hmm.
$650.
And or is Sony going to bite the bullet and eat the cost on every PlayStation 5, just like they did with, I think we were reading about that several weeks ago in another cast, um, uh, where they ate the cost on the PlayStation 3. I think it was
Yeah.
like they lost 10 or 12 or 10 or $50, something like that. It was like, I think it was less than $100, but they lost money per console. And I don't know why. Other than the fact, that it was new tech. They still had their own processor in it, that they developed, the cell processor. And yeah, now here we are. So I think Sean's absolutely right. I think it's something to look out for, is the fact that we haven't seen anything yet. I don't think the engagement's there as much as Sony really is putting out. I think the exclusives are what's going to maybe help drive buying it. But ultimately, I think the Xbox Series X has the leg up and is probably going to sell more this holiday season than the PlayStation 5.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah. So, wow. I mean, it'd be nice if someone actually leaked out what the damn thing looked like. We've already seen what the dev console looks like. I'm just kind of ready to see what the next thing's going to be, but that's just me.
Yeah.
So,
No, I'm with you.
yeah, but let's carry on here to this next story. And this one comes to us from Polygon, and you added this one as well, Kyle. So I'm going to let you also talk about this one. This one is Player Unknown's Battlegrounds is out now on Google Stadia, and it's free with Stadia Pro. So, Kyle, talk to us about PUBG.
Yeah, so Google announced the arrival of PUBG Corp's hit battle royale game on Tuesday during its Stadia Connect event. The Stadia version of the game will be called Player Unknown Battlegrounds Pioneer Edition. The new edition of the game will come with the standard PUBG game, as well as a newly released Survivor Pass Cold Front and a set of Stadia exclusive skins. PUBG will be free to access for any Stadia Pro subscriber as soon as the Stadia connects. Uh, as soon as the Stadia Connect event ends. Because everything is handled via streaming rather than through downloads, players with Stadia Pro can jump into PUBG for Stadia immediately. For other players who don't have Stadia Pro, the Pioneer edition of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds will cost $39.99. So you're paying pretty
$39.99.
much full. Yeah, you're paying pretty much full price
Oh my God.
for a game that's how old now?
What's okay? I got to look right now. I'm opening up another tab here on my thing. Hold on a second. I'm, of course, in the fact of being a parent and doing this stream here, I've got a request from one of my kids here. I'm going to mute you for just a second, Kyle. Hang on.
No problem.
Actually, if you want to, I'll tell you this right now while I'm doing
Yeah, I
this. You
was.
are more than welcome to continue talking about this part itself and why that's ridiculous that we're at this point with, specifically with PUBG on Stadia now.
So yeah, PUBG has been out for what, at least 5 years now. I want to say. It spent so many years in the preview stage, and then had a full launch. Now players are finally getting the chance to play it on Stadia. Um, but 39.99, and actually, let me double check what the Survivor Pass Cold Front content is as it loads up. Here we go. And so even the link, it looks like it may be broken on there. So we'll try and keep posted on it. But the article does go on to say during the same Stadia Connect event where PUBG's arrival was announced, Google also debuted 10 more Stadia games, including several from Electronic Arts like Madden and FIFA, which will both be coming later this winter, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which comes out this fall. So we will actually be getting some more recent titles, but it does also beg to differ how well they will render over that type of connection, and it does depend on where your location is at, as well as if you have any data caps on your locations.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that one, especially because like the first thing I'm going to say here is that on Steam right now for PUBG, it's $30.
mhm.
On Stadia, this Pioneer Edition, I assume it's got to have some additional stuff bundled in, is $40. So, okay, maybe the price difference makes sense in the grander scheme of actual, cost of things, like with the DLC that's actually built into it and that. But yeah, it's like you're right. The biggest thing um, that's the biggest problem is that
And
because of the
you're almost
latency.
saying EA is kind of trying to move towards Stadia until they have their own platform. But
Mm-hmm.
that's all well and good. But we are still talking about a game that's fairly old, and even throwing a few new skins at players. Does that really beg the question? Is it good enough to have people transfer over to this platform that is already possibly dead in the water?
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's interesting though too is like you like we got another comment here from Sean. He says EA announced they're going to go on Stadia until they make their own platform. So that leads me to believe that then EA is going to be exclusively doing its own game streaming service via Stadia, or maybe they're going to integrate Stadia's technology, through some sort of licensing or something into Origin, and we'll have some sort of like Origin. I'll just call it Origin Live, whatever you want to call it. But that right there would make itself or make sense, for them because it's a cost cutting thing though too. But you're right. It's the fact that Stadia does not have anything to really provide to those who it's actually aimed at right now. I mean, do you know anybody that's actually using Stadia right now, Kyle? I mean, like not the trial, but I'm talking like actually got the Founders Edition, and specifically said, are actually like actively playing it still to this day. Do you know anybody?
No, I don't. And actually, I don't know anyone that actually picked it up. We had one come into the shop, and I wasn't the one that was uh, at the register for them trying to sell it to us, but the person ended up denying it based on the fact that you know it's not really sellable. We don't really have too many areas in Cheyenne where you get good enough internet to actually even play it at a viable rate, and
Mm-hmm.
unless you're playing like a puzzle game or something, something that doesn't wouldn't require that massive amount of bandwidth like a first person shooter would.
Yeah, and so I didn't actually put this in as a link or anything. I just found this and I thought I'd go ahead and share it. This is actually a story from a week ago from Ars Technica. And they're talking. It says 1 million people have tried Google Stadia. Mobile app estimates suggest. So it looks like this is actually based on actual installs to both the iOS and Android. But of course, it's not actually perfect because you're talking about the fact that people can go and download and install the Stadia app well before they even actually have access to it. like in prep for purchasing it or in prep for it to ship. And by the time they get it, they're just like, whatever. We're just going to go ahead and, we'll uninstall and move on, because
Yeah.
installation numbers on app stores don't factor in the actual number of uninstalls, though. So, like, if you had a
Yeah.
million people that, like, if you had, let's say, a billion people that, or let's say you had 10 million people who installed the one app, and 1 million of those people uninstalled it, it's going to say 10 million installs still, no matter what. So there's no real number scheme there with it too. So even the article says, let's see, all that said, the app download numbers provide a good enough estimate for how many people have even tested Stadia streaming offerings. Sensor Tower's new 1 million download estimate is up quite a bit from the 750,000 total Stadia app downloads the firm estimated earlier in April, just before the free tier rolled out. That recent growth is faster than the estimated 175,000 Stadia app downloads Google saw in the 2 weeks after its November launch. So literally what you're talking about right now is the fact that, I mean, it's not doing too well necessarily. I mean, that's kind of a good sign, but it's probably a lot of people who are actually getting prepped for just the literal free version of everything.
Right.
Yeah. And so let's see. Our one viewer right now, Sean, of course, is talking here, and he has actually gone on to tell us, if publishers could quit double dipping and agree to allow players to go to GeForce Now, that would be the most logical step. This might call for the death of traditional consoles. So, yeah. So I don't know about the actual GeForce Now stuff, because we've talked about this in a couple things, and I haven't included any news for them because it just seems to continue to get worse for GeForce Now. Is that they were in beta,
Yeah.
they had the permission to use those games in beta, but then the problem is that they didn't get permission to use those when it rolled out to to full on 1.0. And so you had Activision pull games, you had Blizzard pull games, I think
Well, and a
EA's
lot of
pulled stuff.
publishers wanted, per diem per customer use of the title percentage of each membership or something like that,
Hmm.
and it wasn't going to work, and that's what was a big push to for people to pull from there. So,
Yeah, and so
but yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm still kind of there in the field of things, is that I think Google's still got a long way to go, and I just don't know exactly how long this is going to go on for. I think the biggest issue we have is that they did not have enough. They just didn't have everything they promised at launch. There's a slow rollout on things. There's a lot of stuff that they could do. They should. I honestly think Stadia should have probably waited till about now to launch. With where
yeah,
we're at on things, it gave them enough time, of course, in this grand scheme of coronavirus. And of course, because people couldn't go out and buy a Nintendo Switch or any other console because of the shortages, this would have been a great thing for them to have put out now. Of course, nobody could have planned or predicted that we'd be under a giant global pandemic, but this would have been one of those things.
yeah.
So that's kind of what we
Uh,
got, and that's where we're at on it too. But I figured I'd bring up that other
and that does
article.
actually kind of segue us into our next article, um, coming
Mm-hmm.
to us from Tech Radar. Actually, the new Xbox game streaming app could bring Xbox Series X games to cheap Windows 10 laptops. So could have
Yeah.
another major competitor there. As stated in the article, a new Windows 10 app has been found in the Windows Store called Xbox Game Streaming, and it could be a site of how Xbox Series games will stream to Windows 10 PCs that would usually be able to play games like cheap laptops. With the ability to stream Xbox games to mobile devices and PCs via Xbox console streaming feature has been around since the beginning of 2020. The emergence of the new apps spotted by Walking Cat seems like Microsoft could be looking for a boost. The streaming capabilities of Project X Cloud service to bring games for upcoming Xbox Series X console seats. So kind of cool. I
Yeah.
think it was just. briefly stated, and it's actually more of a thing for publishers right now to be able to download, and it's a test thing. They do go on to say at the moment the Microsoft Project X Cloud streaming service is being trialed on Android and iOS smartphones and tablets, but Microsoft did indicate that Windows 10 will be getting Xbox streaming at some point in 2020. The existence of the app does confirm that Microsoft is working on it.
Yeah, and that's interesting, that like okay, so I have talked about this for a while since the Series X was announced, and it was kind of one of my hopes for things. But this, I guess this kind of maybe ties into it, and that was the fact that the I was hoping that the Series X would actually be a combination PC and an Xbox all in one, where it was like the solid state drive was partitioned so you could use it as a mid range gaming PC on one side and use it as a regular PC, and then on the other side of it through a secure partition it was the Xbox. This I think kind of helps not necessarily solidify that because obviously it's not going to, but I think what it does is that it I guess it kind of helps more like the lesser person specifically that they don't have to go buy a gaming PC to be able to play these games, and they don't have to go out and they can just go buy the Series X and do all of it, and now they can actually handle all that stuff just through streaming alone. Like buy it, have your cheap laptop. Like I know yours is a gaming laptop, but it's older, and we know of course how it handles things. So
Right.
yeah, but I'm kind of like wondering if this kind of rolls into the grander scheme of that too.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of one of those big things that I just as we were talking about it and I was looking here, I was like, I wonder if that's partially related to it. So I've got the tweet up here from the guy who actually shared it out, and yeah, I mean it's in the XDK and game streaming, and it's got a lot of dev based text in here, so that's kind of cool. Um, I think it makes sense that of course that would be the next logical step. So, that's cool. Kyle, keep talking about this. I'm hearing some weird noise going on back here. I'll be right back.
Alrighty. Um, so it does say right now for devs only, the app seems to only be for developers, as the description of the Microsoft Store states. Use of the Xbox game streaming test app to connect your Xbox developer kit and optimize your game for streaming. It also requires an Xbox developer kit. Screenshots posted by Algornate Lumia give a view of the interface that the app gives, which again is what Travis had pulled up right here with those images showing everything. And Sean did go on to say that you can stream the Xbox Companion app to the Windows 10 um, as with your Xbox on your network, but the latency sucks. I think this is more specifically for streaming games as games as a service, like you are seeing with Stadia and other platforms.
I am
But
back, by the way, Kyle.
also, okay, but also with specifically the Game Pass app on the streaming as well is what we're more looking at. Uh, but it's really cool that they are testing it with PCs and that the app is showing up and people are getting these picks. So I think we're seeing it emerge a lot sooner than what we had anticipated. Personally,
I actually don't think that it's sooner than we anticipated. I think, with the way development goes on these things, I think that's going to be a launch feature for all of this. I think we're at the point now that we're actually going to see that game streaming stuff continue, and I think it's going to be more refined and more enhanced, and it's going to be something pushed out there because with how much Microsoft is actually like putting the effort forward to really push their game streaming, I think it's going to be a big launch feature, and I think it's going to be a big selling point for the Series X.
but do you think it'll be more of you'll straight up stream all of the game to you? Like there will be some offsite unit processing and doing everything for you, and you be streaming the game.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what it already is, but I guess it depends on those
Like
few
to your
things.
console though.
Oh, to your console?
Yeah.
Um,
And to your laptop.
it's going to depend. It's always going to depend specifically on, uh, how's your console hooked up to the internet? Is it on wireless or is it wired in? What's your actual network connection at home? What's your network connection wherever you're at? Is the game streaming itself still going to be specifically to playing somewhat locally or something? What's the actual setup going to be? And I think the biggest problem for most people when they're away is what's their bandwidth from their house to them, to wherever they're at.
Yeah.
It's better across the United States. So the majority of people here in this country should be able to run their Series X from wherever they're at and be able to stream those games to their cheap laptop or their MacBook or whatever. Um, I don't know. I mean, it seems like everything should be just fine. It's just going to depend on the middlemen of the entire situation. So I don't know. I mean, if like for anybody that's curious that's watching, I did do a once over, a quick look at the Xbox game streaming app for Android. So that had us checking out both the actual game streaming from Microsoft servers, and of course we did the game streaming right from my console, checking out Apex Legends. So if you guys want to go check that out, check out our YouTube page, and you can see what we thought of it. And it's definitely evolved a little bit since then. So something to look at. But yeah, I mean, are you playing any of it, Kyle? Are you actually doing any of the live streaming, like, or the actual game streaming?
I've tried a few times, but my connections, even in different places, have not been the greatest. So I get a lot of screen tearing, a lot of lag, and the games are just not playable.
Hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that specifically for any game that is not installed on the console. If it's playing directly from a disc that's just put in, it has that issue. But if it's
See, and I
on the
I haven't
console,
actually tried anything from the console. I was going straight from the streaming service
okay.
too, so
Yeah,
that could have been.
yeah, and I've tried the streaming service out a little bit. Like I think when we first had it, I took it with me to Walmart and we were sitting in the parking lot for the grocery pickup. And so I put on, I can't remember, I think it was Halo 4 or Halo 5. I was playing multiplayer on one of those and it did mostly okay. I mean, I could notice some lag out there, but I think as time goes on, it'll definitely improve more and more. But that's where we're at right now. It's all still beta anyway. We're not 100% released yet anyway. So a little bit more time.
Right.
It'll be there. Uh,
Well, and there's been like talk of new technologies of like predictive buffering where it buffers the next 100 actions or next possible 100 actions for 5 seconds 100 times over, and this entirely insane processing that once that's more set in place, you'll see an entirely seamless play. So
yeah, I think with the evolution of 5G, the increase in bandwidth, even just for home internet, I think it'll probably end up getting to be better. Just it's got to take more time here. And this other comment here in the chat, talking, it's like, really, it's late. If you remember the original Division trailer at the Xbox One announcement, they bragged that you could join in using a Surface. I don't remember that, but I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, let's take a look here. Let's see, the Division Surface, the Division. Let's see, Division Surface. I'm just putting that there. Let's see. Not seeing anything immediately. Division announcement. Microsoft Surface. Let's see. I'm not seeing anything immediately. Not gonna fight that part there, but Sean, if you come up with a link there for us, go ahead and drop it in chat. We'll take a look at it, of course, as we carry on through the rest of our stories here. But that's interesting. So let's go ahead and carry on to our next story here, Kyle. And this one comes to us from PC Gamer. The next Battlefield game will release next year. Now that Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5 have ceased development, DICE looks to the future. I didn't realize they were actually done. I assume they had some more DLC stuff coming out, especially for both of those games, but, here we are. Following confirmation that both Battlefield 5 and Star Wars Battlefront 2 are winding down, Electronic Arts has narrowed the official release window for the next Battlefield. Previously, a company executive had offered a vague 2021 to 2022 window, but now we know it'll release next year. The publisher confirmed as much with IGN, stating that the studio, DICE, is focused on the future of Battlefield that will be bringing to players in 2021. Whether it's Battlefield 6 or Battlefield 2 or another Hardline-esque spin-off hasn't been specified, but it seems like likely DICE will want to get a mainline Battlefield game on next-gen consoles as quickly as possible. So, it's another Battlefield game. I wouldn't actually mind, especially with the emphasis on, the remastered Modern Warfare. I wouldn't mind them going back to the standard Battlefield affair, with it being Battlefield, like a successor to Battlefield 4. I think that would be fun to play.
But once again, Battlefield 4 was a launch title for the Xbox and One and PS4, wasn't it?
That sounds right to me, actually, too.
Yeah, it was, and they had all those issues with the save files. I actually traded in my copy because it kept deleting my save file. So
yeah, and you're absolutely right here. So yeah, according to Wikipedia,
maybe that's why they decided to push it back, an additional year, so they're not actually releasing on console release, so they don't make the same mistake.
Yeah, so the game came out in let's see here. The game came out in October of 2013 for Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360, and then was re-released in November as a launch title for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So yeah, because the Xbox One launched in November, so that makes sense. But it's interesting though, that's why it's I'm wondering, would it be so bad for them to go back to that anyway? Especially because in the grand scheme of everybody copying each other, look at the success with what the Modern Warfare remaster is. And of course, the introduction of Warzone, the multiplayer in that too. It just sounds like it might not be a bad idea to see, the actual Battlefield 5 or the actual successor to Battlefield 4, excuse me.
Yeah, I would say a successor, but definitely not a remaster, because I don't think any of the Battlefield titles have as memorable stories or characters or anything than the Call of Duties. Even if they do have, there may have been a few in there that actually have better gameplay than a Call of Duty game, and I personally don't think any of the stories are as memorable.
Okay. So
a continuation, yes, but definitely not a remaster.
Yeah, I really don't think it's gonna be a remaster. I think it would be better for them to actually do a continuation. There's no reason for a remastered Battlefield game at all. I think going back to its roots when we got, Battlefield and Battlefield 5, Battlefield specifically, where it was going back to World War II, right? Didn't the most recent Battlefield go back to World War II? Battlefield 5 was World War One. Or am I remembering that wrong?
Shoot.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Because that's what I was just, well, yeah, because I think that's the thing, is that they kind of did that by throwing back. I think it's time for them to actually do it. But I want to go back to what we were just talking about with the Xbox Series X and the streaming part. So Sean actually dropped us a link here from the announcement of The Division from E3 2013 from the press conference. And let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick here. So it actually shows someone here with a drone, and it actually has in brackets there, it says they're on a tablet. So I'm going to go ahead and rewind it back here just a little bit. We'll get some sound going and we'll actually listen in to see what they say. Yeah, so it still says that he's, it still says just tablet specifically, but, it was probably earlier on in the actual presentation itself,
Yeah.
that there was probably something related to it, and, we got some information there, especially with the tablet mention. So we can always go and kind of research that a little bit
Yeah,
more
and I
here
kind of scrubbed
later.
the video, and I'm not seeing anything
Hmm.
immediately, but it is, I don't doubt that they probably did,
Hmm.
so.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and move on here into our next story then. We're just going to go ahead and try to keep the ball rolling on things here. Sean, thank you for dropping that to us there in chat. Truly appreciated. So we're going to go ahead and hop in here to our next story. And this one comes to us from Eurogamer. And of course, a lot of people, with the lack of sports going on, esports is the next step, but even esports is going to suffer because of the pandemic. Fortnite and Dota 2 cancel major esports events. While real world sports have been turning to video games for online tournaments, it seems some esports events have not been so lucky, as both the Fortnite World Cup and Dota 2's The International have been canceled due to the coronavirus outbreak. The Fortnite World Cup, which last year pulled in over 2.3 million viewers to make it the most watched competitive gaming event of all time, excluding China, will not take place in 2020. While all other Fortnite physical esports events will take place online, the World Cup could not take place due to the limitations of cross-region online competition, which again, kind of going back to the way networking with the way networking is and trying to make sure there's a level playing field, you don't need someone with poor latency, connecting in and they end up being good at it just because they're lagging out so bad they're messing with everybody else.
Yeah.
And then Dota 2, of course, they explained it doesn't have the confidence to provide new dates at this time, likely due to the highly volatile landscape for local gathering restrictions, but will likely take place in 2021. So the Dota 2, the International, of course, that one actually I think does have like it even says here another vast esports event with the largest top prize players can earn from esports. Hopefully with that amount of time that they're actually going to sit on this, maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe they'll actually have a bigger prize pool for next year instead. Or maybe be able to actually put the investment into that remote infrastructure that they so desperately need. But I'm just one guy. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You
Or
know,
who knows, maybe they can generate more hype behind the event, maybe make it bigger.
yeah, absolutely. It always draws in a big crowd. Dota's always still very popular. In the MOBA games, it's right up there still next to League of Legends. Excuse me. So you might be right. We might actually get a little bit more hype behind it, maybe some more money behind
And
it, and get people to
who
actually do the
knows?
stuff.
There are a lot of people that just got brand new computers for this like remote schooling crap. So
Yeah, but
you could see a spike of new players because it's not like those games take or have major system requirements too. So who knows? It could change the whole competitive landscape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're very right. It could. Yeah, for the people who couldn't actually do it, and now it's like, well, okay, I got to spend the money for something better. They probably really could. So you're absolutely right. Maybe that would actually be a reason to up the prize pool because then they can segment it out better among the different groups. Your novice class level players all the way up to your masters. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So let's move on to our next story here, and this one comes to us from IGN. This one is definitely. Oh, yep. I know. I have an ad blocker on. Destroy All Humans remake, July release date revealed. We're going back to Destroy All Humans. This game, of course, came out in 2005, and it's now being re-released. And I gotta say, it looks cool. Like, I'm really actually excited to get this game and to show the kids this game.
See, I never played it. I always heard it was just a blast, and it was one of those just silly but disgusting, and one of those ones you just had to play because the humor was off the wall. I don't
Hmm.
know, maybe you can talk more about it.
I really can't either. Like my experience with it has been very minimal. It is very off the wall. Like I've got the trailer going right now from IGN's website. It's like if they, it's almost like if they made Mars Attacks into a video game. And we know how
Right.
goofy that movie was. It's literally about the same as that. There's a few little things here and there that are going to obviously be different, but in the grand scheme, it's like if you wanted a Mars Attacks video game, this would definitely be up there with it. But it's coming out here this year. That's actually really cool. Yeah, July 28th, 2020. And I'm stoked for it more so on the fact that it's just another game to just to show the kids. That's all for me. Because I know the
Yeah.
kids definitely like playing their goofy stuff, and I think this one would actually be a good one to invest their time into because it was definitely a funny one. There wasn't anything that I remember about it actually being like raunchy or gross or anything. It's just an alien running around doing what you would think aliens do from the old stories and that from like the 1950s and 1960s. So, but I think it's going to be a really cool one, and I think out of all of us, I think for the goofy stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if Preston plays it. I really wouldn't be surprised. So,
I think he actually already did say that it was one that he was going to pick up.
yeah, which would be cool. That'll actually be really neat to get his take on it, of course, too. We saw how he is and have heard how he is with Medieval. So that's going to be, I think it's going to be a good one to actually get a review from, him on. So let's go ahead and jump into our next.
I will say later on in the article, it does go to say if you're really keen on the remake, uh, come get a closer look at the 399 collector or dollar collector's edition that comes with a crypto backpack, 60 or centimeter tall figurine, and a crypto shaped stress toy. So kind of a neat uh, collector's edition. 60 centimeters tall. That's actually a pretty big figure.
I'm bringing up the
Especially,
picture here now.
yeah, especially
Oh my
if
gosh,
it's a high quality PVC figure, that's really cool.
60
I
centimeter.
know that we've
Jeez.
had collector's edition like bags in the past. I guess it kind of depends on what the backpack is made out of to see if it's worth that price point. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's a really cool backpack. That's a pretty cool figurine.
I mean,
Um,
depending on the height of the actual backpack, like I'm looking at this on the back of the model here and that, but um, I would actually take the backpack apart and probably turn that into a costume for my daughter to run around in.
right?
That actually looks like something that you could just cut apart and re-sew up just right to make that into a
I mean,
costume.
I don't know about the price point, but
No, God, no, no, no,
it could
no.
be worth it. I mean, for some people,
Yeah, I'm just shocked at how crazy collector's editions have gotten over the years. This I don't know if this necessarily takes the cake. Because what else have we had as actual collector's editions though too? I know there's definitely more that are out there that are definitely more in price than this, but I just can't remember off the top of my head what.
shoot, if it seems like I paid
Oh, hey bud.
it was either 2 or 300 for the original Batman. I think it was Arkham City Collector's Edition, and that one I felt like was a total ripoff because it came in a giant bat-shaped magnetic plastic case
Oh my
that was
God, you're
actually really
right.
cheap, and it had a plastic batarang that was fixed to a stand, which originally it was supposed to be a plastic batarang. Well, it was supposed to be a metal batarang that you could take off, and then it was a plastic batarang that you could take off, and then it was supposed to be metal, but it was still supposed to be fixed to the stand. So I mean, they really kind of built up a hype for it. So uh,
Yeah, and
I would hope for that price point, the quality of the figure and the quality of the backpack. are really, really good.
Yeah, I would hope so too. But if you remember what happened, we talked about this in one of the news podcasts previous to actually doing what we're doing now. That there was all the controversy with the Fallout. I can't remember if it was Fallout 4 or Fallout 76, where there was the
It was the 76 with the canvas bag that turned out to be nylon,
that's it.
and there
That's
was like
exactly
lead
it.
paint in the helmet.
It wasn't lead paint. It wasn't lead paint, but something in the actual foam had gotten like wet or something when they were actually making it, and it was mold. It was actually mold in the
Oh,
phone. And by the way, Sean, you make mention of that one here. So Sean in the chat, and of course I'm scooting away here, is talking about the night vision goggles from Modern Warfare 2. So hold on, because I love bringing these things up. I probably should really take it apart because I'm sure these are still the original batteries. But yeah, so if you want to talk ridiculous collector's editions, there you go. So these are number 140,156 for the night vision goggles from Modern Warfare 2. With of course
I can
the
actually see
yeah
mine.
yeah
They're up in a closet right now. It
mm-hmm.
would take a minute to get them down, but yeah, I have the exact same setup.
Yeah, so these right here, they're fully working night vision goggles, to a point. I mean, obviously they're not like the stuff that you'd actually see the tactical teams use for it, but you got that, and you got the soap McTavish model head that you actually wore them on or put them on, of course, for the display purposes, as you can see here. As of course I try to get back into frame, but I really think that the batteries that are in here have actually been in here since I got them from you guys when I bought this at GameStop on launch night. I think
Oh,
it's this. I think it's the
I
same
know
batteries.
mine. I have.
Yeah,
I know mine are the same batteries,
yeah. And then of course,
and
hold on.
I put them in the that night when I got home because of course my collector's edition paid off. So when we
Yeah,
finally cleared the gate and everything, I got to go home and play my copy. And the first thing I did was throw batteries in and try and wander around the house in the dark, very unsuccessfully.
yeah. That's definitely a big part. And so here I grabbed my other one though too, and of course it doesn't have it in there, but it's still in spirit. Is the Halo 3 Master Chief collector's edition helmet, the legendary edition, where if you pull off the top of the helmet or the helmet off the stand, and I have what looks like a bunch of anime convention badges just in here for some reason. I need to put those somewhere else. But inside here, of course, is where you actually kept the steel book of the game. So that was kind of a cool thing, of course, out there. But as you can see, of course, looking at the bottom, you can't actually wear the helmet. And even if you took the helmet apart to make it wearable, and come on, get back together. Even if you took it apart to make it wearable, you'd still have to change out the visor because it is definitely not see-through. It's definitely just a chromed out looking visor, and that's it. So yeah, if you want to talk ridiculous ones, there's the night vision goggles. You had the remote control claptrap too, from
The remote
Borderlands
control car
2.
from Call of Duty, what was it, Black Ops?
Yeah, and I think it was. I don't remember if it was just Black Ops, but I think it was either Black Ops 2 or
I
Black
think
Ops
it was
3.
Black Ops 2 or 3.
But they had the drone though too, where you actually could have the little, because that was when like the quadricopters and drones. It was like
Oh, yeah,
it was like
yeah.
pre DJI. That drones were getting to start to be this big thing, and them being in these games, it's like, oh cool, now you can actually have one, and here it is, and you can fly it around. I think it had like a little camera on it too, or at least the remote control car did. But yeah, there was
I
that
think we'll
one.
have to make that a subject of a discussion on one of our nights.
Dude, fuck yeah, I would absolutely
Best game
love.
pre-order.
Dude, yeah, best collector's edition out there. I think that would definitely be it. And there's so many different things. Like I'm actually bummed. I'm gonna make a mention of this now before we get into the next story, but I didn't know what the Doom Eternal Collector's Edition was, and I'm bummed I didn't get it.
What was it?
The higher tier Collector's Edition was actually a Doom Guy helmet.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
See, I got the collector's edition for the 2016, so I have the demon that's on the fan that has the light with the fan above it. So it's this constantly changing light around it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring up this picture here for our viewers now, of course, and so you guys can actually see what this collector's edition looked like. If I can open up the actual image all the way, that'll be enough here. Let's see, that's number 4. There we go. Okay, so yeah, here's the helmet itself. Of course, it's partially rendered in this picture, but you had that. You had a little cassette with Doom music on it. The actual collector's lithograph here in the back was the Con Maker, and of course the Sentinels. If you've played Doom Eternal, you kind of know where the story's going with this, an actual art book too. But yeah, if we go back into here, the actual size of it too, like as we look at this picture, it's actually like full scale. You could just throw it on, you could just wear it, and it was actually pretty well on point, for the details in it. And I'm bummed because I didn't know about it. I want one. Like, out of everything I've got, I want that. I'm so pissed I
That is
didn't know
pretty
that's
cool.
what it was. Yeah. You seeing the picture of it now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Uh, yeah. I think that's the one. Like, if I was to go actually pay for a collector's edition, that would have been the one I got. And I'm bummed. I'll, I'll look on eBay when we're done with the news and see exactly what that costs, just to see if I could find the helmet on its own. Probably can't, but worth a try. All right, but let's move into our let's see, what is this here? This is our second to last story, and it's actually kind of a two-parter because it was some big news also this week too. That is The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima get new dates, and both are coming out this summer. So this comes to us from GameSpot. Of course, it was talked about all over the place anyway because, a lot of people were upset about Last of Us 2. So what's happening is that Last of Us 2, which had been delayed indefinitely due to coronavirus, is now releasing on June 19th, and Ghost of Tsushima, the next game from Sucker Punch, will follow on July 17th, about a month later than previously anticipated. So they're giving some wiggle room to Ghost of Tsushima by letting Last of Us come out beforehand, so that way they're not overstacking on their game releases and possibly making people choose between one or the other. So that's actually really good. It's actually awesome that they were able to come up with dates themselves too, because it even says here, a note on the PlayStation blog from Worldwide Studios head Herman Hulst says these dates are possible due to an ease in the global distribution environment. So the biggest part of it, of course, a lot of the delays was more specifically, I believe, to actual disc manufacturing and the actual disc burning than it was just releasing the game though too. But there's been also some talk of the requirements to kind of finish the cleanup before the game could be released that they couldn't do. But now that things are, I'm not going to say they're getting back to normal. People, they're really not getting back to normal. Don't listen to what people are saying. We still got some time to wait. Besides that, the fact that some of the supply chain stuff is starting to get figured out, at least probably on this side of things, they can actually print it to disc and get it out to retailers, get it out to distributors, and start selling it, which is good because I don't have it actually in this article, but Kyle, I don't know if you saw it either in the announcement of this. The install for the digital only version of Last of Us 2 is going to be 100 gigs.
Yeah, I had heard mention of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100 gigs. Seriously, 100 gigs though this for this game.
Which is technically a little over a fifth of your hard drive. Or, yeah,
As of
over a fifth of your hard drive.
exactly. So you're talking
If you've got the base console.
exactly, yeah, and compared
I
to
mean, for the PS5, it'll be what one
terabyte.
tenth.
So yeah, that'll be a tenth of it. Well, probably even less because or more, just because you
Yeah, a
think.
little over a tenth.
Yeah. Oh, it comes with a terabyte hard drive, but that terabyte is not actually exclusively all to you. So you're going to get maybe 900 to 920 gigabytes of space because the rest is for the operating system and everything else
Right.
underneath. So yeah, exactly. So you're talking at minimum a tenth of your hard drive. But even for those older console, like the older PlayStation 4, you're talking still a 500 gig hard drive by default. So yeah, you're talking a fifth at minimum. So that's definitely a big thing to also talk about too. So make sure that your drives are already set and ready to go for this if you want to do digital. Otherwise, it looks like we are good for this to be released here in June, which means literally it only got a what looks like a 2-week delay because it was supposed to release on May 29th. And that's cool. So, yay for those of you who own PlayStations and can actually play this, because I own an Xbox and a PC, and I might just have to invest in PlayStation Now to play it on my computer. But there's that. So, moving on to, of course, we don't want to push anything off about Ghost of Tsushima, but that was the only change, was that it got pushed off by a month. Just to give some breathing room to Last of Us 2. But the second part of this, though, is that the same day that they announced that The Last of Us 2 was going to come out in June, we got this story here from Ars Technica, and of course it's out. It's been widely discussed by everybody else too, is that Sony says major Last of Us Part 2 leak didn't come from an employee. So there was a big leak originally about the game. That I guess actually ended up spoiling the ending for some people who were going and looking at it, and I guess some of the major plot points. But of course, some things may have changed since it came out. So let's kind of talk about what the original story here said. It says, when Sony and Naughty Dog said they were delaying The Last of Us Part 2 indefinitely a few weeks ago, it was in part to make sure that everyone gets to play the game around the same time, ensuring we're doing everything possible to preserve the best experience for everyone. That intent has taken on a new and more ironic meaning today, though, as videos containing massive apparent spoilers for the game have leaked on the internet, and on the same day that Sony finally confirms the game's June 19th release. While Sunday night's original YouTube and Reddit postings broadcasting the spoilers have already been taken down, mirrored copies are still relatively easy to find if you're looking, or even if you're not looking, depending on how much trolling you're usually exposed to online. An example for me is, of course, I went to 4chan back when Star Wars Force Awakens came out, and of course it was spoiled that Han Solo was killed. Okay, that happened to me. The lengthy video game clips show an apparent debug build of the game, including cutscenes and gameplay from the beginning right up to the near end of the narrative. They include significant details about the fate and relationships of major franchise characters, as well as previously unrevealed details about gameplay and perspective. So what we know now about the leaks specifically, and what Sony has come back and said, is that like the title of the article here is that the leak did not come from an employee. And apparently that leak, that employee or whoever it was that leaked it was not an employee of Sony Interactive Entertainment or Naughty Dog. So, of course, because it's an ongoing investigation and, of course, it deals with intellectual property, I'm sure that the feds are probably involved. I'm sure that, whatever local law enforcement is involved to handle whatever it is that's going on. So they either know who the person is or they're tracking them down right now. So you haven't seen any of the spoilers yet, have you, Kyle? You haven't ruined the game for yourself?
No, I haven't,
Okay.
and I really don't want to. I intentionally don't go out and seek out that stuff, or if it pops up, I avoid looking at it. But I mean, shitty on the people that do this type of stuff. I mean, you do have naive people that they will click on literally any clickbait, and even if they're a little naive, and they could be super excited about a series, and for someone to do this and just ruin it for them, you know.
Mm-hmm. No, that's my big thing, is that I mean, now that, of course, with everything that's going on online now anyway, people are so um you know
Well,
people are allowed to
and
be edgier as time goes on, and they do stupid crap like this all the time.
Well, even if to put it into the developer's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
not even to the sense that that they've ruined it for the developer, but what if the developer just tell us their story? Since it was their story, they wanted to be the ones to be able to put it out there, tell it, instead of some asshole going out there and just leaking the information for everyone and their dog to see,
Yeah.
or even to create a clickbait article. I dislike these people, as you can kind of tell.
Exactly. um I wish I knew really what drove people to do things like this, like where the high and mighty stance comes from to just ruin things like this. I mean, it's upsetting. We can't stop it in this day and age of the way things go on, is that once something's on the internet, good luck completely getting rid of it.
Yeah.
So the hope is that for those of you who have not gone looking for it or haven't come across it, good for you. Be very careful, of course, treading in places that maybe you're, looking at information at that you don't normally go to, like a gaming news site that you've never been to, or a good example, of course, like what happened with me with Star Wars Force Awakens was, going to 4chan by accident. So don't don't let the same thing happen to yourself, and just take all caution, of course, because sometimes the things you're reading, they may end up not actually being true. So you may not have actually spoiled anything for yourself, but got yourself all worked up if you thought you had. So it's a shame, dude. I mean, I'm glad that, for some things here that, stuff doesn't really get spoiled as much as it had been, but it seems like in this day and age with games and even like, smartphones being announced too and those leaks coming out, that's kind of just what happens. We just have
Yeah.
to kind of be wary of what we're looking at and pick up and move on. And that's why we are moving on now to our last story of the day. And of course,
Great segue there.
it's awesome, isn't it? And of course, like we talked about in the last week's stream, we are really going to, especially in the grand scheme of what's going on right now, we're going to go ahead and try to end every one of our weekly news roundups with a feel good story. And this one actually follows along in the same vein of Elijah Wood visiting someone's Animal Crossing island and, exchanging their turnips for some pretty good bells. But this one, however, actually brings in a person that we didn't expect to be playing. This article comes to us from The Gamer, and of course it was reported on, I actually first saw it on Twitter from Danny Trejo himself, but Danny Trejo plays Animal Crossing New Horizons, and he wants friends. Danny Trejo just got Animal Crossing New Horizons, and he's looking to share his Dodo code. So, of course, Danny Trejo is definitely known for Machete. He's definitely known for, I'll throw it out there because, of course, it came out when I was a kid, was Spy Kids. Okay. So
Yes,
he was
yeah.
in Spy Kids as the uncle. It looks like here he actually had some video game stuff, though, too, that he did with Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and 4. But this is the actual tweet from him. He picked up Animal Crossing New Horizons, and he wants people to play with. And it's funny because specifically, it's Danny Trejo. I mean, you think of this guy as being like a hard ass in almost everything he does, and here he is just kicking back with with Animal Crossing, just like everybody else is right now. When you got nothing else to do, I guess this is what you turn to, right?
I
So,
guess. I think it's great. I think it's super funny.
like I remember even seeing here too. What was it? There was a what was it? The same girl right here. Yeah, the same girl who actually had Elijah Wood come onto her island actually replied to his tweet. And, she tried to make it basically into a celebrity island almost, really, with the way things are going on. I don't know if he actually made it or not to her island or anything, but I thought that'd be kind of neat to carry on from last week, is that it's like, okay, you had Elijah with us last week, now you got Denny Trejo the next one, which is kind of cool. But a lot of people have dropped him, codes, or at least they're trying to work with him to get in, and play on his island or vice versa. It's kind of neat. So I think that's really a good one to end on here with this one, unless you've got any other stuff we need to go into, Kyle. I mean, there really wasn't much
I
else in the news this week.
Yeah, I really didn't. Yeah, not a ton of stories this week dropping, not like last week. But of course, gaming news.
Everything's changing, man. Every second we got something new. Every second we got something crazy, and who knows? Maybe at the next one we'll have an actual picture of the PlayStation 5. Maybe something will leak out then, like everything else does. So cool. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for joining me again, dude. Always a pleasure to have you
Yes,
with me
sir.
here doing the news. And of course, thank you to our viewers for tuning in this evening with us. Don't forget to check us out. Of course, you're watching us here on Facebook, so make sure to follow us on our Facebook page. Go find us on YouTube. Just search for the NPCs. Look for our logo, and you'll find us. Of course, we do have the link to it on our Facebook page. We have a couple videos, of course, up that you can check out. We should have another one coming down the line here soon. I believe it's a review of Neo 2. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the NPCs podcast, and we will have some new episodes up for you of a What Are You Playing and a new topic episode this next week. So again, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys all later.
Later.